A city is calling Krishna a murderer, and the strangest part is this: he cannot prove them wrong. A man is missing. His name was Prasena. He rode out hunting 9 days ago, wearing the most valuable object in the world, and he never rode back. And the city has already decided who took it. The object is a gem called the Syamantaka. It came from the sun, literally. Satrajit, a nobleman of the city, prayed to Surya for so many years that the sun god finally stood in his courtyard, lifted the jewel from his own throat and placed it in a mortal's hands. The gem gives 8 cartloads of gold every day. Krishna went to him back then. One conversation. It is the conversation that will nearly destroy him.
Give the gem to the king. One man's courtyard shouldn't hold what could feed a kingdom. You want it. I want it kept safely. Everyone who looks at it wants it. At least I'm honest about keeping it.
A small refusal. A rich man clutching a rock. It seemed like nothing. Then Prasena, Satrajit's brother, borrowed the gem, hung it on his chest, and rode into the forest to hunt. 9 days. No horse returning, no body found. And Satrajit stood in the open court and said the words out loud.
Krishna asked for the gem once. Now my brother is dead and the gem is gone. Ask him where it is.
That is all it takes. One sentence from one bitter man. The story does the rest of the work itself. It moves through the markets faster than fire through dry grass. Because it is a good story. The beloved prince, the secret dread, the murder in the trees. People don't spread it because they believe it. They spread it because it's delicious. Krishna stands in his own city and understands something cold. It does not matter what he is. It matters what they can imagine. He could ignore it, let it pass. But a lie left standing doesn't fade. It sets like plaster. It becomes the history. So he does the only thing left. He rides into the forest to find a dead man. The trail is 9 days old, but the forest keeps records. Broken branches at the height of a rider's shoulder. Then hoof prints that panic. Shot, chopped, veering. Then the horse or what is left of it. Then Prasena. The trackers look away. Krishna doesn't. He kneels by the body of the man he is accused of killing and reads the ground around it. Paw prints, wide as bowls. A lion took him. The chest is torn where the gem hung. There it is. The whole truth. A lion killed Prasena and carried off the jewel. Krishna can go home now. Tell the city. Clear his name. Except the trail doesn't end. The lion's prints continue up the slope. And then they stop. All at once. In a wide scatter of blood and fur. The lion is there. Dead. And a lion is not killed by teeth or claws here. It has been broken by hands. Leading away from the lion's body, footprints. Enormous, deliberate. Not the prints of anything that should still exist. And whatever killed the lion did not run afterward. It walked calmly home. The trackers refuse to follow. Krishna sends them back with the news and goes on alone up the mountain, following the prince to a mouth of darkness in the rock. He steps inside. The cave should be black. It isn't. Deep within, the walls glow. A cool blue-white radiance spilling around a corner. Light with no fire in it. He knows that light. Half a kingdom is accusing him of murder over that light. He turns the corner and stops. The Syamantaka Gem, the treasure of the sun, the jewel kingdoms would bleed for, is hanging on a string above a cradle. A baby is asleep beneath it. Jambavati sees him. She doesn't scream words. She screams a name. Jambavan! The name arrives before its owner does. As a sound in the stone, footsteps Krishna feels through the floor. Then he fills the passage. A bear the height of a doorway. Shoulders of dark fur gone silver at the edges. Understand what is standing in front of Krishna. Jambavan is not an animal. He is a king older than the city outside. Older than the age itself. He fought in a war the world has already turned into scripture. He built the bridge to Lanka. He stood beside Rama when Ravana fell. Everyone he fought beside is dust and legend. He is the last one left. and someone is standing over his child. There are no words. Jambavan attacks. The first blow puts Krishna through 6 feet of stone. The mountain shakes down dust. And Krishna, who has lifted a hill on one finger, who has swallowed forest fires, pulls himself out of the broken rock and feels something he almost never feels: resistance. They fight. Not for an hour, not for a night, for 28 days. Day and night lose their meaning inside the mountain. The cave floor is rubble. Krishna strikes with force that should end a war, and the old bear absorbs it and comes forward again. Day 11, day 19, day 25. Krishna keeps hitting a wall he cannot name, and slowly he begins to understand what the wall is made of. This strength is not muscle. Muscle would have failed weeks ago. Jambavan fights like a man defending a promise. Every blow is powered by something older than his body, a lifetime of devotion, compressed and burning. He is not drawing his strength from himself. He is drawing it from someone he loves. Because in the age before this one, in a story the world now sings instead of remembers, Jambavan was granted a boon. Rama himself, victorious on the shore of Lanka, offered his old bear general anything. And Jambavan, drunk on the glory of the war, made a fool's wish, a warrior's wish. He wished he could test his strength against his lords, just once, to feel it. Rama smiled and said, "You will." Then the age ended. Rama walked into the river and did not come back. And Jambavan lived on, and on, and on, a boon of long life becoming a sentence, watching everyone he loved leave, guarding a promise that never seemed to come. Day 28. Jambavan is failing. For the first time in 3 ages, his body is failing. His arms hang, his breath tears. The stranger in front of him is still standing, still calm, watching him with something in his eyes the old bear is too exhausted to read. So Jambavan does the last thing he knows how to do, what he has done every day for thousands of years. He prays. He closes his eyes, bleeding in the dark of his own home, and reaches for the only name that has ever meant strength to him: Rama, Lord. Give me the strength to defeat this enemy. He opens his eyes to look at the enemy, and he sees him. The same steadiness, the same impossible patience, the same face he has been describing to himself in the dark for an entire age of the world.
You asked for this once, old friend, on the shore, after the war.
I asked to fight you. I did not ask to forget your face. 28 days. I have been striking you for 28 days.
And I have been answering.
Jambavan looks at his own hands. He waited an entire age for that face. And when it finally came to his door, he met it with his fists. Because it did not arrive wearing the past. The old king comes down. Not falls, comes down, the way mountains do, slowly, joint by joint, until his forehead rests on the broken stone at Krishna's feet. And 3 ages of waiting leave his body at once. Krishna kneels. He puts his hand, the hand that has been beating this body for a month, on the silvered fur, and where he touches, the wounds close.
Everything I have is yours. It always was. I just didn't know you'd come to collect it looking like a stranger.
He takes the gem down from over the cradle. The string looks absurd in his huge fingers. He places the coal light in Krishna's palm, and then he gives in his daughter, Jambavati, raised in a cave lit by a stolen jewel, now walking out of the mountain into her first true sunlight, her hand in the hand of God. Krishna carries the gem down the mountain, back through the forest, past the place where a lion died, past the place where a man died, back through the gates of the city that called him a thief. He does not go home first. He goes to the court. Full assembly. Satrajit is there. Krishna crosses the floor, and the room is so quiet you can hear the gem knocking softly against his knuckles. He sets it down in front of the man who accused him.
Your brother is dead. A lion killed him for riding alone with the sun on his chest. A bear killed the lion. I fought the bear for a month. Count the gold. It is all there. The only thing missing was my name, and I have just carried it back.
Satrajit looks at the gem, then at the faces around him. Every noble in Dwarka, all of them replaying every word he said in the markets. His accusation is lying on the floor between them, glowing. Shame does something to a man that fear never manages. He picks up the gem with shaking hands.
Take it, and take my daughter Satyabhama, and let it be finished. I was wrong. Let the gem say I'm sorry, since I don't know how.
Krishna takes Satyabhama's hand. The gem he pushes back across the floor.
Keep it. It was never the gem I came for.
The court empties. Night comes. Satrajit sits alone with the Syamantaka in his lap. 8 cartloads of gold tomorrow. 8 the day after. Its light moves over his face. Blue-white. Beautiful. And it does not warm him at all. He got everything back. The gem, the gold, even his honor, publicly repaired by the man he slandered. He sits in the glow of the sun's own treasure and looks like the poorest man in the city. The gem is not done. It never is. In a few years, it will pull a knife through his own door in the dark. But that is another man's greed and another night.